Automated testing in a CI/CD pipeline is a solid way to catch regression bugs early. In this video, I'm going to walk you through running Cypress tests in an Azure DevOps pipeline. So let's jump right in. I've already pushed a basic test environment to our repository. It's just the sample test that Cypress generates when you open Cypress Launchpad, choose end-to-end testing, and create a sample spec. It just navigates to example.cypress.io. I'll give you a quick peek at what the test target looks like. Now, I did make one tiny little change to this default test. I added an assertion to check the title, but here's the catch. I intentionally put in the wrong title. Here's why. When I'm building a new pipeline from scratch, I like starting with a test that fails. Seeing how the pipeline deals with failure is way more helpful than watching it breeze through a success. Now that you've got the scoop on our test target, let's swing over to the pipeline editor and start crafting the first version of our pipeline. Alright, first things first, I'm just going to clean up some of this example code that's here by default. We also won't be needing the node installation task for this pipeline. Before we actually start writing the pipeline steps, let's do a quick Google search and see what Docker images Cypress has available for us. You've got Cypress browsers and Cypress included as options. Either one would work, but I'm going with Cypress browsers this time, since it's what the Cypress docs usually roll with. It comes packed with dependencies and 3 browsers, but Cypress itself isn't included. We'll handle installing that in the pipeline. We'll add the container keyword. The VM image for our runner is Ubuntu, but it will pull the Cypress browser's container and run the tests inside that container. Here's a little tip. You might think it's smart to pin a specific version number with Docker images, and usually it is, but this is an exception. The Cypress browser's container includes 3 browsers, and we want their versions to stay fresh. The moment a new browser version drops, we want to test it out. That's why sticking with the latest tag makes sense here. Next, we'll do a clean install with npm CI, followed by the run command. If you've got a web app that needs to start up before the tests, like a test target, you'd kick it off here between the install and run commands. Since we don't have one, I'll leave that part blank. And that's it for the basics. It doesn't take much to get the test up and running, but we'll layer on more details later, like reporting and cross-browser testing. The test run finished with an error, just like we planned. And the error is exactly the one we were aiming for. So next up, let's get this pipeline set up to give us some test reports after each run. This is the pipe symbol, which is part of YAML syntax. It allows us to write multi-line scripts. We'll install a custom reporter for the Mocha framework and tweak the Cypress run command with the right parameters. We need to set continue on error to true. We have later steps that need to run regardless of whether the tests pass or fail. The last piece of the puzzle here is to actually make these test report files available. We need to publish them as artifacts so we can access them after the pipeline run. This line of code here looks like exactly what we need. We need to specify the correct path, and we also need to make sure this step runs even if the pipeline fails. By default, the publishing step doesn't run on failure. Let's just duplicate this publish step. We can use this second one to grab the screenshots that Cypress automatically takes when a test fails. Those screenshots only show up when a test fails, so we'll set this publish step to trigger only on a failed condition. Time to run it and see what happens. We got one artifact. I was expecting two. The first publish worked fine, but the second one got skipped due to condition evaluation. I'm not sure why that happened. It might be because I set continue on error earlier, but let's not get bogged down in that right now. Anyway, let's take a look at the test report and see what it gives us. If I just click on the HTML file directly, I get a blank browser window. That's because this HTML file needs the other files in the Assets folder to display correctly, so to see the full report, we need to download the whole report folder. And there's our report. Now let's take our pipeline to the next level and add cross-browser support. We could just copy the run script 3 times for a sequential or parallel run, but I'm going with a matrix strategy instead. It's a clean, simple way to handle parallel execution. We'll name the runs, and in each instance, we'll use a browser variable to specify which browser we're testing. Then, we just need to go down to our Cypress run command and replace the hard-coded Chrome parameter with our new browser variable. To make sure our artifact names don't clash when we have multiple browser runs, we should also append the browser variable to the name of our artifacts. I'll also set the screenshot report to publish after both success and failure this time. Just in case it didn't work last time for some reason, I want to make sure we get those screenshots. All the jobs failed. Let's dig into why for each one. They all failed with the right error. Let's also check if we can grab those screenshots. So now we've got 3 separate reports, one for each browser. That might be fine for some, but personally, I like to merge them all into one really nice comprehensive report. To do this, we're going to set up 2 jobs in our pipeline, a test job and a merge job. The test job will handle our matrix runs, and the merge job will take care of combining all the reports. The merge job needs to run after the test job is finished, so we'll set up a dependency to make sure the merge happens after all the tests are done. First thing in our merge job, we need to download the test report artifacts that were generated by each of those matrix runs. Next, we'll install the merging tool and the HTML report generator. The merge command needs all those JSON report files that were created in the test runs. And then, finally, we generate the single HTML report. The command is actually called Marge, just like Marge Simpson. I'll copy the publishing step from the test job. Alright, I think we're ready to run the pipeline again and see this merge job in action. Our merge job was successful. Let's check out the artifacts and see if we got our merged report. And there it is, check it out, our awesome single merge test report. Now, one thing that can really speed up your pipeline runs is setting up caching for your build script. It can make a big difference, especially in larger projects. Let's look up how to add caching. This page has solid examples for doing it with all sorts of package managers and build tools. First, we define the cache path, then the cache key. That's about it. The restore keys parameter is a fallback in case of a cache miss. Let's grab the example and see how it fits into our pipeline. One thing to note, cache only saves on a successful run, so I had to comment out the line that forces the test to fail. The npm config cache is an environment variable. You need to set it here, so npm uses a specific cache path when running npm CI. The cache key is built from three parts: npm, the agent OS, and a value computed from package lock JSON. That way, if the OS or package lock file changes, we get a cache miss. If you ever need to wipe your cache, just slap a random string at the start of your cache key, and it'll invalidate the old ones. One way to set the cache path is to just add it as a parameter after the npm CI command. If you want to double-check that the folder's actually there, you can list the contents of the directory where the cache should be. Time to run it and see what happens. Unexpected value, steps. That's a common hiccup, usually just an indentation issue. Alright, let's analyze this cached run now. This fingerprint here is our cache key. The hash code is generated from package lock JSON. The cache got a hit. That's unexpected. The first run usually results in a cache miss, but maybe it's because I've been experimenting with this pipeline, or maybe it's the fallback from the restore keys parameter. Here you can see how much data was actually cached. It was compressed and then uploaded, which takes a little bit of time. So saving and retrieving the cache always adds some overhead. For caching to be worth it, that overhead needs to be less than the time you save in your build process. In our pipeline, that would be the installation step. Speaking of cache size, there's one more thing I want to show you. Cypress has examples for caching its own stuff too, but in a CI/CD pipeline, it's not super helpful. The Cypress cache folder contains the browsers themselves, and it can get pretty big, around half a gigabyte. Compressing and saving that much data is going to take a while, and it's not even data that you compiled yourself, it's just downloaded browsers. I don't see much point in caching it. Maybe on some rare self-hosted setup it'd make sense. Here's the post job that saves the cache. There's a warning about the key, but I'm not sure what's up with that. It might be some internal thing. The package lock file shouldn't be changing in our pipeline. And here it says we got a cache miss. Just for being sure, let's run it one more time to lock down those execution times. Alright, the cache npm task took 8 seconds, and the post job saving the cache took 1 second. The installation step took 21 seconds. Let's check the times for other browsers. Firefox took 25 seconds. Edge took 21 seconds. Now let's compare with earlier runs where caching wasn't enabled. Here, the installation step took 23 seconds. Firefox and Edge both took 21 seconds. So the takeaway is that our pipeline didn't really speed up with caching, but it's pretty clear why. We don't have a real build step in this pipeline. It'd be a whole different story if we were, say, compiling an Android app. My goal here was just to show you how to set up caching, and how to dig into the results of cached runs. It was a breeze to get going, but if it's not saving you time, skip it. Keeping things simple is the way to go. That's a wrap for this tutorial. I hope you had fun watching. If you did, please feel free to share it with your fellow coding buddies. Thanks for tuning in.